So, welcome back to the Telco Drift, a podcast exploring tech, telecoms, and other sci fi stories. I'm Pablo, your host, and in today's episode, I'm joined by Amy Cameron, Managing Director for Research at STL Partners. So, Amy, welcome to the Telco Drift.
Thanks for having me.
So, first of all, today we're gonna assess 1 month after MWC what really stuck with us, what sort of got lost in translations, and what's gonna happen throughout the rest of the year. But we will also deep dive on what it means to be an analyst, almost a philosophical question. So, let's start maybe with that. Know a little bit more about yourself. Can you share some interesting facts about yourself and also how you ended up becoming an analyst?
Okay. Well, I think probably the most interesting thing about me is that I lived in China for 2 years and studied Mandarin at the time. And so I still speak some Mandarin, although it's very rusty. So, 大家好. And what happened is after I lived in Beijing, I came to the UK and I studied Chinese politics. Like, that's what you do. You do a master's. And I thought, I'm going to change the world and work for risk control and do economic and political risk analysis. But I graduated in 2011 and I did not have a CV stacked with great internships. So nobody hired me to do that. However, I did find a job on the telecoms industry team for a broader like economic risk and industry research company, which was called BMI, and is now owned by Fitch, the ratings agency. And that's where I learned all about telecoms. And I was covering the Middle East and Africa, and then I was heading the team. So great opportunities as a young analyst, and like everyone else in telecoms, you come and never leave because it's endlessly fascinating.
It's interesting because your path is like surprisingly, actually, I didn't know, surprisingly close to what I did,
Oh
because
yeah.
I did study war studies at King's College, and I kind of wanted to go the same, route that you were thinking, like, political risk, country risk, so on and so forth. But then I needed to find a job, and the first one was in the telecom space, and I was like, well, job is a job, so let's stick to that. So interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And you also are still in telecoms, so clearly find it endlessly fascinating too.
Yeah, I think I think that that's part of the beauty of technology. I mean, to be fair, I did think that it should be a less depressing market compared to political or country risk, and
Oh yeah.
something where you don't you don't need to be so disappointed every time that some big persona makes some terrible decisions. So makes life a little bit easier, and definitely like it is fascinating. So let's encourage younger analysts to
Yeah.
pursue a career in telecoms.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think that the joy is that it touches on everything, right? Like geopolitical tensions are significantly impacting the opportunities for the telecoms industry right now. So, um, it all comes back one day or another.
Yeah, everything is useful, I think, in this job. And I know like different analysts have different backgrounds. So from chemistry, physics. Some people actually like have a background in telecoms, but like no, that's not interesting enough. But yeah, I mean that's settled. So encouraging people to become analysts. That's point number one. We got it. Now let's sort of circle back a little bit more on the market. So you went to MWC, I suppose, right?
I did.
So, what technology or what bit of the show impressed you the most? And I know there's going to be probably already quite a few sort of post MWC shows. So, for me, what I would like to understand is really okay. We are a month now, a month after, maybe 2 months, whatever, after MWC. What do you think is still relevant? Is still sort of hot in a sense?
I mean, I think that really trying to unpick how organizations are adopting AI internally and leveraging what they learn internally to engage better with their customers or develop new services. And in that order, what they have learned internally that they can then use to help their customers grapple with the technology. Those are the bits which I think are fundamentally going to separate the companies in a few years from now that are successful and those that are less successful, because this technology is like permeating everything that we do. It touches every company. And for once, it's kind of interesting because tech companies and telcos alike are in the same challenge of how do I successfully use this technology within my organization and to improve how I engage with my customers. And like tech companies, sure, they're maybe more technical than telecoms operators are in many domains, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily better at figuring out how to make a cultural transformation as significant as what AI is doing. And so it's quite interesting that, just to see how different companies are approaching that and what they're doing with this. And I think that is probably the most interesting long-term trend that is going to come out of MWC. And this is the first year, like last year, there was all this agentic AI, blah, 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 but it wasn't
Mm.
real. And now there are some agents. And so there is something real to make an assessment and learnings on.
I like your take that last year it wasn't real because sometimes it happens, it's like sometimes you have that beautiful plan, right? And then slow and steady you start rolling out. But effectively you're saying some companies are eating their own dog food. Is that how you say it in English? Better
There's
than
lots of
others?
ways to say it. That is one of them.
Which is it's I think it's the right approach. It's interesting because some time ago in a different life I used to cover IoT.
Yeah.
And they were like sort of a similar path in a sense. Some companies were like first testing it internally for their own whatever campus applications, whatever, and then they were learning a little bit. Okay, what works, what doesn't work, and like how can that be solved? I mean, the IoT market didn't really become as big as as people wanted, but still, some people made some money out of it. And are you optimistic on AI or pessimistic? And I know it's kind of broad, but
Um, I think broadly optimistic. I think this has more to do with like how somebody is by nature than necessarily how they feel about a specific technology. I'm quite an optimistic person. I think anybody who's like seen me will attest that I'm like quite lively and smiley, and I feel like, yeah, I feel like an optimist. It doesn't mean that I don't think that there is a significant risk that we're going to go through like a period of absolute chaos. Which, in technology terms, that might be like a period of chaos of like, you know, 10 years, and that it'll get better
wow,
afterwards.
10
But
years.
I don't know, there's a lot of chaos going on right now. And that's, AI is only going to make things more chaotic for a bit, but I think that there's a lot of benefits that can come out of it and that will come out of it. And I am fundamentally an optimist. So I think on like long-term horizon, I'm positive.
So it's a matter of like people soldiering through the chaos and finding the right way of using AI or the
Yeah.
right balance between AI and morality.
Well, I think it's actually more fundamental than that. We're having a philosophy session after all. I believe that humans are fundamentally in the balance, like
Oh,
more good than bad. And so I think that, things are gonna like end up more good than bad. And
yeah.
that's, I think that's part of being an optimist. But it is like, the like at the end of the day, technology evolves how human society makes it evolve. And I'm not really a believer that we're gonna have this like AGI that's gonna like reset all of the other AIs or turn the entire world into paper clips or whatever it is. But so I don't actually like I'm not a believer that we're on the cusp of AGI.
So you're not a believer in the Skynet type of scenario.
No, no, and I think
Okay.
that like I don't believe that the technology is going to run us. I think that humans will remain fundamentally more powerful, that actors than the technology, and that humans are fundamentally more good than bad. So that's where
Well,
my optimism comes from.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a good philosophical question. Definitely, I have a slightly more pessimistic view of
And
the
yet you do
duality.
it with a smile, Pablo.
Because it's you don't want to be like too negative. At least I don't want to be too negative in my
Yeah,
assessment of the uh, how should I say it nicely, the weakness morality of
yeah.
mankind or whatever. But no, I see. Like I want to be. I'm a little bit like X Files. I want to believe. I want to believe in the goodness of people and like the ability then to use different set of technologies to
Yeah,
effectively bring a higher set of benefits to society.
yeah.
So that's sort of, yeah, we can agree on that. I'm forcing myself a little bit to to say this, but sometimes I need to kind of get out of my comfort zone and like
Saying it out loud is half the battle.
yeah, then believing in it is something
Exactly.
else.
If you say it enough times, you
Yeah,
might end
yeah.
up believing it.
I'm gonna end up definitely believe like every morning I'm gonna think I'm like, okay, humanity is good. And then we'll see next time
You
that we
say your
catch up.
mantras.
Yeah, we can see how that is working. Now, again, back to MWC. So, of all the companies, is there any company that for you stood out in terms of what they're doing, their vision, or how are they doing it?
Um, I think on this piece, this AI piece that I brought
Mhm.
up, for me, the the operator that I love their approach is Orange. I
Mhm.
think, I had the great pleasure of joining an analyst roundtable with their chief AI officer, Steve Jarrett. And they've managed to build this live intelligence platform over the course of 3 years. And just, hearing how Orange talks, they're very clear on how they want to use the technology, how they've built things out, how they've structured their team in order to make good use of AI in their organization and with customers. And so I think they've done a great job so far, and one to follow. And like I think an example that is like useful for the broader industry, because it's great to point to an SK Telecom, but let's be honest, no other telcos except the East Asians are going to be producing semiconductors.
Yes.
Like it's just it's a more, it feels more replicatable to the wider industry, and so I think that is a nice example for that reason too.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Like, first of all, like on Orange, when we're talking about sort of the sort of morality angle, I think that is something that at least they try to transmit quite a lot
Yeah,
in their strategies, in what they want to do. Sort of they really double down on
yeah,
that, at least sort of as a messaging point of view. And
yeah.
then, yeah, I mean, not many people can go down and replicate what an SK is doing. Probably maybe a couple of
No,
companies. It's like
yeah.
it's kind of hardcore stuff.
Yeah, and also look, most telcos just don't want to do that. Let's be honest, they don't want to do that, so it's not a good example.
And I think they shouldn't, because
Yeah,
they won't have the capabilities or the market or the conditions to be successful. So it would be kind of
yeah, yeah,
a nightmare for them.
yeah, yeah.
And speaking about nightmares, then, what failed to impress you at the show?
You know what I was so, so, so disappointed by? There
Hmm.
was like virtually zero demo of anything slicing related. And
Hmm.
it's like such a shame, because we have nice industry proof points from Singtel, from T-Mobile, from Telstra, how to bring 5G standalone capabilities to market. And the operators are rolling out their 5G standalone networks, but there was just like really very little in that domain. And I feel like I just hope it's coming later in the year. I think there've been a couple of announcements since MWC, but I just really wish that operators would excel more in their core capabilities.
So they're not. So is it because slicing or connectivity is not sexy enough? Do you think that could be part of the reason, or they don't
No, I
see
don't
enough
think
money?
I don't think that's it. I think it's that you're selling something different. You have to think differently about how you sell something, right? You sell like you're used to selling like a mobile subscription with a handset, and that's like 85% of your business, or maybe you're used to selling some enterprise solutions as well in some pockets and some domains, but still a large part of your enterprise business is still connectivity solutions. And that's different to like selling an an outcome to a first responder customer, or selling
Mhm.
an outcome where you have to think differently. And Telstra is really good at this, about thinking like, what what are we going to sell? We're going to sell as products. We'll sell latency, location, bandwidth, et cetera, et cetera. And we
Mhm.
have to sell those products. We're not selling just a connectivity. But that's like it's like a whole, you have whole sales organizations and businesses that are used to selling one thing. And to make
Mhm.
money out of a more flexible and programmable network, you have to sell something different. And I think that is like really challenging for operators to like begin turning the ship in a different direction.
I think yeah, that makes sense. It's a little bit like a big cargo ship. When you want to turn it, it does take a little bit of time. You don't probably have that agility to
Yeah,
switch and change things, change course
exactly.
towards greener fields.
Yeah.
But interesting that was something that did not impress. I mean, for me, when I'm thinking, I went there sort of with my other hat. One
Yeah.
day, I wonder if I would go to an event actually as a podcaster. I wonder what that would be like. More journalist like, maybe. I have no idea.
Hmm.
Well,
I don't know. Maybe you just like get to spend your time filming the pretend robots lightsabering with the real robots or something.
probably we spend a lot of time there. Just that sort of like deep, analytical type of videos. It's part of it. But I think for me, what I've seen then WC that probably failed a little bit to me is it's kind of absurd, but it's the lack of concrete steps that I would probably say the industries
What kind of concrete steps?
money.
Okay, like investing in something.
No, like making making
Oh,
money.
making money. Oh,
Yeah,
making money.
that would probably be like you and I know not necessarily the place where you want to show that, right? Because that's more about, okay, this is the technology, this is the solution, this is the vision that we have. But I always think like if I'm going there and someone is telling me, look, that's a big chunk of dollars that I
Yeah.
made with that solution. For me, it would attract me more than someone showing me robots fighting each other,
Yeah.
because I
I
would think
mean,
like, oh, that's actually
there was a little bit of that. There was a little bit of that. I was at a Singtel Digital Infraco event on the Sunday, and they were very much like, cha-ching, we're making loads of money. Who wants to buy our platform and deploy it in another country?
okay, and that's the
So
Paragon platform, I imagine.
not just Paragon, like their whole infraco. They have like a data center business,
Okay.
and they have their systems integrator NCS. They've got Paragon for the connectivity and compute
Hmm.
orchestration, and they've got like a REAI platform. thing that runs across the board. And so it's like a whole like AI solutions digital infrastructure business. So that as a whole is like
Hmm.
Paragon is a part of it.
Okay, nice, nice. And I'm gonna sort of check some news about that. It's good to see because at the end of the day, yeah, it's kind of lacks imagination in a sense, but it's good to see that because at the end that is gonna sort of foster further R&D and further
Yeah.
solutions and
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Of course.
And I had a point on my notes on asking anything about AI, but I think we have covered that quite extensively. Unless there is like any additional agentic AI versus physical AI, which one is more important?
Well, now agentic because like physical AI.
You really don't like robots, do you? I mean,
No, it's just that it doesn't really like exist yet. And I mean, I haven't thought about it enough to debate like which one is more valuable ultimately. And I think there is a
mhm,
strong argument that physical AI is more valuable over the long term, which is what a lot of people are saying. But we're just not there yet, right? That's the whole reason why Jan Lucas like left and set up his own business is to train the models for physical AI. But it's going to take a long time to train those models, and you can see, like in a country like China, where you can put the gloves on to people's hands in a factory, and you can have millions of people with the gloves on and doing all the different things, and you have that labor and that like top down um, organization to train
mhm.
those models. Okay, yes, we'll have models to train physical AI, and you can see it already in the robots that they have in China. But it's going to take a really long time for that to come to life. Like, just look how long it's taken to get autonomous vehicles on the road, and they still don't know how to navigate a crosswalk, which is apparently one of the biggest barriers to them being deployed in a place like London, is because that's so like dependent on eye contact between the drivers, and it's like a little dance, and the autonomous
Who
robot
stops?
vehicles don't know how to do the dance. So just see how long it's taken us to do that. So I don't think that physical AI is like coming tomorrow. We have our hands full with agentic in
Mhm.
digital systems. So not that you shouldn't dream, and it's great to see some of the players dreaming about this future. But do I realistically believe it's happening in 5 years?
Okay. To be fair, I don't not big on AI myself, so I take the word for it. But I do. I mean, when I'm hearing your timelines, it does seem that's sort of what I would imagine. It's like,
Mm,
especially when you talk about robots, you can't imagine less than 5 years.
yeah, yeah.
And in my mind, I imagine robots way more sophisticated than the robot arm or whatever it is. But
Yeah, yeah. I
that's
mean, but don't lie, Pablo. If there was a robot that was going to bring your Deliveroo from the entrance over to you and just like bring it to your coffee to you now or whatever it was to you now in the middle of your podcast, then you would take it, right? That might be within 5 years.
yeah, kind of a house robot.
Yeah. Or yeah, I mean, I'm in my office, so maybe it would come to my office. I'm not sure how it would do with the stairs in the middle, but
I would feel strange having like a house robot, to be honest. Well, possibly because my flat is very tiny, so it would take too much space, and then it would be just a little bit kind of an awkward living situation in a sense. It's like there is someone else, and I have two cats as well, so like
Okay,
I
yeah.
would I would have to ask them what they think about
It's
a
better to
ro-
train them to carry the coffee tray.
yeah, or the robot would carry stuff for the cats. That's more likely
Oh, right. Okay.
the
Okay.
scenario. But okay, we have covered robots as well. That was not on the agenda, which is really really good because you probably I don't know if you know if you're following, but I'm trying to bring this podcast more into the sci-fi territory.
Oh, right. Okay.
Um, by your reaction, I see that you're not really following, but
No, no. I mean, I have not followed closely. I'll be honest, but I did hear your introduction, of course, where you
yeah,
did mention
okay,
sci-fi.
that's a good save, definitely. But let's now cover then the second part of the episode. So we have sort of discussed a little bit MWC, what was there and not, and but you were also there, like speaking and moderating and doing a bunch of stuff. So first of all, how did it go? How was that experience? And then again, if how important you think that is for like analyst, the analyst life?
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. I think some people find it like really super nerve wracking to moderate a panel or join a panel. I really enjoy it. I think it's an environment that I personally thrive in. So, hence why I also said yes to join you on your podcast.
Am I at
um,
the same level as an MWC speaking gig? Is that how?
don't put yourself down, Pablo.
Yes, that's optimism there. Absolutely.
um, but yeah, I think it's really important because from a from a personal standpoint, when you're on these panels, so whether you're moderating or you're participating as a speaker, it forces you to really think like, what is the point I want to get across? What do I actually believe in? What is the point worth making? And I think that it forces you to crystallize your thoughts a little bit the same way when you're actually like, putting your research on paper or, making a presentation or whatever it is. And I think that that focusing of the mind is good
Mhm.
for like thinking about whatever topic you're meant to opine on. It's also great for meeting people. Well, especially at MWC, the kind of people who sit on panels are pretty high profile people. So you get to speak to them and meet with them and hear what they're thinking, and maybe open an opportunity to get to speak to them again in the future. That is a great opportunity. So it's always nice. I think that our value as analysts, a lot of it comes from what we're able to learn from the experiences of those who are trying to implement the strategies and the technologies that we are writing about. And so you need to learn from them, and it's a great opportunity to build the relationships to do that, or to do that live while you're on the panel.
So would you say that sort of if you're like a junior analyst or like someone that wants to get into this line of business, would you say this is sort of essential at a certain part of the development progress? The development progress doesn't sound right, but
Yeah,
I guess you know
well,
what I mean.
um, I think that look, different companies have different things that they look for in their analysts, but I think that certainly it has benefited me a lot in my career, and I definitely encourage the analysts on my team to do it, and to put themselves out there. And I think that we all have to step outside of our comfort zone sometimes. And I think that for a lot of analysts, it is outside the comfort zone, and that's why they don't
Yeah.
want to do it. But to like, fine, like you might find it uncomfortable. You might find you could have done a better job of it, but you will take that lesson and do a better job of it next time. And like, yeah, long story short, I do think it is important.
And do you have a preference, like personally, moderating or speaking?
Um, no, I think they're both good. I think that,
Equal doesn't. There's not like you sort of a preference in terms of, because I remember when I first started, I prefer moderating because I found it easier in a sense. You are less exposed, if you want, from a content perspective, or like how much knowledge you have, right? Because you're kind of orchestrating that. But then later on, I found out that if I'm presenting, I have more freedom in saying whatever I want because no one else is there to stop me, in a sense. So you have those 20 minutes, and I can make my whatever message I want to convey in in whatever way I want to. Sort of, if I wanted to
mm,
be funny, I could. be funny, right? If I want to be, I don't know, more whatever obscure references, which I think probably that's the case. That's the way that I can do it.
You don't think you can do that when you're moderating?
I would say less because
Less.
your job is not to show off in a sense. Is to enable your panelists, I think, to
Y-
express themselves at best as they can. And you can bring some of your own point of view, but people are there for the panelists, I think.
Yeah, you are there for the panelists, but also you're there for the audience. And I think that it's important as a moderator to push your panelists a little bit,
Yeah.
right? And you can push them in the direction that you think is important and in the direction that you think that the industry may not be addressing enough. And you know how it is. You say like, "Will you moderate this panel?" And you're given a subject and you're given some bullets. And at the end of the day, you're moderating. You could ask whatever you want. And I
Well,
think depending on how you do it and you prep the panel for it, then if you if you're a little bit more, if you have a strong view as an analyst and you want to hear like industry representative engage with that in a serious fashion, then being a moderator is a good way to do it, providing that you have a panel who can take it.
yeah, I think that that's probably the key element there, right? You need to have people who want to play ball with you,
Yeah,
and that if you're like pushing or
yeah,
challenging in a certain way, they don't get defensive, but they're actually embracing that and like,
yeah, yeah,
you know, kind of
yeah,
giving back to you, like, and that depends. Some speakers may be a little bit afraid in a sense if you're like a little bit too, if you provide
yeah.
too much constructive criticism. Let's
But I think the overall the industry has become like a lot better at admitting areas of fault and trying to take those on seriously.
Hmm. Okay.
Like I think it's better than it was 5 years ago.
Okay, that's sort of the industry maturing then,
You don't sound convinced.
it, no, because in my mind it sounded a little bit depressing. It's like, yes, we failed, but we know that we failed, and then next thing, oh, we failed again. But no, that is just me. Positivity needs to kind of,
There are some people who fail
I,
and then succeed afterwards, Pablo.
yeah, that's a beautiful story. I'm sure I'm gonna find some people that that did that. But last question then related to this. What recommendation would you give to someone wanting to be an analyst?
um, to force yourself to really, really, really rack your brain. Like I remember when I first joined STL and I came from, this like research firm where we were like tracking ARPU data and subscriber data. It was like so superficial in terms
Mm.
of visibility. And then I came to STL and writing deeper research. And it was like my boss kept saying, we need to write on blockchain and telecoms. We need to write on blockchain and telecoms. There's me and two other analysts, and nobody was putting their hands up. And eventually I was like, fine, I'll write your blockchain in telecoms paper for you. I was like, I'm taking the hard one. And I just remember like, just like this technology is so complicated to explain in plain English. And like, what is it for? And I don't understand the inner workings of telecoms. And like, but you, by forcing yourself through racking with those difficult topics and trying to like answer a question that somebody hasn't answered before, like, yeah, there's loads of things I got wrong in that report, but I also like got like more resilient as an analyst and more comfortable taking on different difficult topics. And I think that that is like, and it's like it's hard. I remember at points thinking like, I really wish I had a job that was like less thinky and more doey. And I have a much more doey job now, and I do wish I had more time for thinking. So these things ebb and flow. But as an analyst, I think that pushing yourself to your analytical boundaries is a good practice.
Okay, so you need to kind of, I don't want to say suffer, but like work hard.
Work hard. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that applies to any
Uh,
job.
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, yes, that's what I'm finding with this podcast. I'm trying to swing it past, but like there are like a lot of like small things that actually you need to actually put
Yeah,
some more
yeah.
effort into that. And I would imagine, yeah, like I agree that that's a good recommendation for like a junior analyst. I don't even know if junior analysts are listening to this, but who knows? Maybe they could. For them to, yeah, you're gonna have to, you know, work hard on understanding complex technologies or complex markets, and yeah, go through the other side of the tunnel in a sense. Now, okay, so I think we can probably like wrap this up here. We had like we covered like a lot of stuff, so that was like an absolute pleasure having
We
you.
can
And
always have a V2 if people really want to know more about my philosophical ramblings on being an analyst in AI.
who knows? Maybe people will demand to hear more about your philosophical take on life. But for now, Amy, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate. And for everyone listening, have a great day. And yeah, feel free to drop a comment or let us know what you think about this episode.
Thanks for having me, Pablo.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.